Gives me great pleasure to bring this meeting to order tonight. And we are going to begin with the pledge of allegiance. Please stand. Pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Remain standing, please, for a moment of silence. Thank you. Now I'm going to ask Ms. Sawyer to, if you can, have the roll call, please.
Karen Gordon,
Present.
Tammy Reza,
Here.
Rodney Walton,
Here.
Daniel Spence,
Present.
Dr. Sheila Williams,
Present.
George Archuleta,
Here.
Virginia Houston.
Present.
And now I'm going to call on Ms. Houston to read the ethics awareness, please.
Welcome to the August 23rd, 2021 regular meeting of the Elizabeth City Board of Education. It is my duty to remind members of the board that it is your responsibility to avoid all conflicts of interest or potential conflicts of interest in accordance with Chapter 138A of North Carolina General Statutes. As public servants, it is your duty to continually monitor, evaluate, and manage your personal, financial, and professional affairs in such a way as to ensure the absence of conflicts or potential conflicts. Does any member know of any conflict of interest or potential conflict of interest with respect to any matter coming before the board? Let the record reflect that no conflicts exist.
Thank you, Ms. Houston. And now I'm going to ask for a motion from the floor for the approval of the agenda. And a second. All right. It has been moved and seconded. All in favor? Roll call, please.
Pam Reza,
Yes.
Rodney Walton,
Yes.
Daniel Spence,
Yes.
Dr. Sheila Williams,
Yes.
George Archuleta,
Yes.
Virginia Houston.
Yes.
Thank you, motion carries.
Now I'm going to turn the floor over to Dr. Ingram for this report.
Thank you, Chair Warden. Last week, I'd like to kind of summarize some of my activities. Last week, I did speak at the Rotary Club in Elizabeth City. They did donate some school supplies to the district, and we thanked them a lot for that, and I enjoyed speaking with groups. Yesterday at Elizabeth City State, I was at the Back to School Bash. It was well attended. It was at the Bond Center at Elizabeth City State. Several staff members were there as well and got to meet Chancellor Dixon and spoke with NAACP President Mr. Keith Rivers. Keith and I kind of go back. He was a student when I was a teacher at Northeastern, so we told some old war stories and had some good times. So it was a good event. Today, I visited all the schools. Thanks to Tammy for driving me around. I felt like driving Miss Daisy a little bit. I was riding, and we did not get out we got out at every school except for Elizabeth City Middle and Pasquotank. We hit it during the traffic. We had some real traffic issues today. No doubt about that. And things are going to get better. First days are usually a little dicey. This one was particularly dicey. I look forward to Ms. Hill's report a little bit later. And and I want to make a plea to the public. We're still in need of crossing guards at several locations, particularly Sheep Harney and P.W. Moore. We're experiencing the same thing lots of other industries are. Help wanted all over the place, and the local law enforcement authorities really worked hard to help us out today, but that's not a permanent solution. We're going to need some crossing guards, and so if anybody wants to do that, if you're listening online, please reach out to ECPD, the Elizabeth City Police Department. We'd love to have you join our crossing guard ranks. Dr. Spencer will be updating us. My last count, I'm sure it's gone up a little bit. We had about 150 students applying for the virtual option. We've got devices going out today, tomorrow. We're organizing that now. Students have packets to work on, and we are going to honor what the board has asked us to do. We're not going to have teachers do both simultaneously. So we're working on staffing that now. And we also had a great virtual meeting with a contact that I have in the Low Country about some professional development for virtual learning because it's the wave of the future, and we'll be planning a more permanent virtual academy in the future. Technology certainly has its place in the future of our school systems across the country, and we need to be out front with it. So there's truly an option rather than limiting it to just medical issues now. So worked on that today. Our COVID dashboard is back up. And as I went around the schools, I did see masks in place, children wearing masks, staff wearing masks. Couldn't always stay apart as far apart as we needed to when we needed to, but we'll work on that. It's not always practical to be 6 feet apart, but we'll do the best we can. We know that kids are going to take mask breaks, and they have to take them down to eat and drink. And, you know, I take mine down too from time to time, but I try to remind myself to put it right back up. I think we haven't had as much pushback on that as we could have. I think a lot of it is because, and I understand it's political, and I understand a lot of people have different opinions of it, but the truth of the matter is about 75% of the school districts in North Carolina are now requiring masks, and that's increasing almost daily as hospitalizations increase. So, but this board and community can be, at least from what I saw, kids were wearing masks and adults were wearing masks in our buildings. Of course, they don't have to wear them outside, but we do encourage safe protocols. Lots of temperature checks. I probably had my temperature checked more today than I have in a long time. So that was good. And as my last comment, I spoke with Chair Warden right before the meeting. I would encourage you to look at your calendars. We do need to get back on our professional development that I promised you back in April. We got to start. It would be great if we could do, 3 or 4 hours on a Saturday, maybe, if you can. But I'm at your beck and call. So whenever you decide that you can, that's fine with me. I'll make myself available. But I encourage us to work on our shared values and our protocols. Organizations that build themselves on shared values are the most effective on the planet, and that's work that's near and dear to my heart. But also, I believe it will serve our community greatly. And then as COVID eases, we'll take this work to the community and go from there, so that we can be a true team. Today was not perfect, but we got back in school. And kids were glad to be back in school, and teachers were glad to be back in school. And I would give you numbers, and I can give you numbers, but we got 2 schools that we don't have, the 2 high schools, because there was a glitch in the computer reporting, but we've got over 3,000 kids back in our elementary and middle schools. But we'll have a more complete picture of that in the future. So at any rate, that concludes my report for the evening.
Dr. Ingram. And to piggyback on that item about professional development for the board, I've asked all of you members to look at your calendars and see if there's a particular Saturday that would work for you. I think that would be the best option for us. We could also look at work days, possibly, but I know a lot of you work, and we don't want to interfere with your own professional life. So if Saturday would work, I'm open to suggestions. Please look at your calendars. And again, I'll send an email out, and we'll come up with a day that kind of is conducive for the majority. Okay? All right, with that said, we'll move on. I need a motion from the floor for the approval of the minutes. So may I have that motion from someone, please?
Madam Chair, I move that we approve the minutes for July 26, 2021, special session, July 26, 2021, regular session. August 2nd, 2021, special session, August 16th, 2021, committee meetings.
Thank you, Ms. Houston, and I need a second.
Second.
Okay. Any discussion on any of those? Okay, we need a vote on that. Ms. Sawyer, roll call, please.
Pam Perezza,
Yes.
Rodney Walton,
Yes.
Daniel Spence,
Yes.
Dr. Sheila Williams,
Yes.
George Archuleta,
Yes.
Virginia Houston.
Yes.
Motion carries.
Okay, thank you. And we'll move on to the public forum. And according to Ms. Sawyer, we have 1, 2. Okay,
Before I read, I'd like Sharon Stanley to come forward.
okay, Ms. Stanley? Nice to see you, Sharon.
Hey, how are you? How you doing? I came here tonight, not as a parent of a student, because I don't have students in the public school right now. I do have 2 teachers in the public schools. And I have talked to Mr. Archuleta, and I did tell him that if y'all had another open forum thing, I would be there, because he asked me specifically if I would be here, and I said yes. So I felt like I wanted to hold up my word to you, George. I wanted to mention something about wearing masks. And I know a lot of us have differing opinions on these masks, but I really feel like that this should be an option for the parents. All of you are sitting here with your masks on, but when you go back to your office, I'm sure that most of you can take off your mask and you don't have to wear it in the comfort of your office. But our children don't have that luxury of being in an office, and the teachers don't either. And I really feel like you need to leave something up to the parents. I mean, this isn't a dictatorship and stuff, and I know that people are concerned about getting COVID, but we sometimes have to step out in faith. And I know some of you are faith-based people, and I really feel like we have got to take a step out. This COVID stuff is not going away. It's not going away anytime soon. And what are we doing to our children, keeping them in masks for 8 hours a day? I know they have their lunch break, so they can take them off. I know they have recess, and they can take them off. But the high schoolers and middle schoolers, they don't have recess. You know, they have lunch. And I just feel like we just need to consider them, the children and the teachers. They really don't need to be in these masks. I mean, right now, I am sweating because it's so hot in this mask, but you've got to consider them as well. And it's been known that COVID doesn't affect the children as much as it does the adults. And if they're willing to come to school without a mask, that should be their prerogative. You know, it shouldn't be forced on them to have to sit here day in and day out in a mask when all the other adults, and you all too, like I said, you can go to your office. You can go outside anytime you want and take off your mask, you know, but they cannot. And I just wanted to voice my opinion because I feel like if I don't voice my opinion, I have no right to complain. So, I mean, I respect people's opinions. I hope they respect mine. I wish there was more people here, but they're not. But I felt like it was important enough to come down here and just give you my opinion. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Stanley.
Chair Warden, Vice Chair Perezza, board members, Superintendent Ingram. We had comments that were shared prior to our committee meetings on August the 16th. I did follow up with those individuals to see if any of them intended them to be public comment for tonight. And I do have one. It is from Mariah Arnold. Due to a lack of scientific evidence that a mask will prevent anyone from contracting COVID-19, I, as a parent of a second grader, feel as though it would be in the best interest of the children to not be forced into having to wear a mask at school. I believe it should be something that is a personal choice, not something a child is made to do. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, sir. Okay, we're going to move on to the consent agenda, on which we need to take action on several of these items. They're all policies that have been on the table for the amount of time that they are supposed to remain on the table. Hope everybody has had an opportunity to read over those. We did have a committee meeting in which we were asked to discuss those. Those things were brought up and those things were discussed. So with that said, we are going to take action on these items tonight. I need a motion from the floor for that.
Chair Warden, do you want me to list out the items separately and then do the policy changes?
Yes.
Okay. I make a motion that we approve the items on the consent agenda to include FBT 02 schedule of fees, FBT 03 budget resolution, FBT 04 fundraisers, FBT 06 the early college and COA memorandum of understanding, FBT 07 the African American experience of the Northeastern North Carolina resolution, and then the policy updates for PC 01 all the way to PC 43. And these include updates that were, that we had from the School Board Association. And I believe that's it for the consent agenda.
The motion has been made to approve these items. The budget resolutions, the schedule of fees, and the fundraisers, along with the memorandum of understanding and the resolution, and then the policy changes. Any discussion on those? If not, we need a second. Okay, we've had a second from Mr. Archuleta, and we need a vote.
Pam Perezza,
Yes.
Rodney Walton,
Yes.
Daniel Spence,
Yes.
Dr. Sheila Williams,
Yes.
George Archuleta,
Yes.
Virginia Houston.
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. All right, now we're going to move on to committee items, and I'm going to call on Mr. Walton again to conduct the items for the Finance Committee.
I'd like to introduce Rachel Haynes, our Chief Financial Officer, to talk about the lottery fund application.
Chair Warden, Vice Chair Perezza, Committee Chair Walton, Superintendent Ingram, and board members, good evening. Finance has two items on the agenda tonight. The first one is FBT 08, the application for the lottery distribution for the 2021-2022 fiscal year. This application is typically submitted in August and requests to use Pasco-Tank County's portion of school construction lottery funds to pay a portion of the debt service for ECMS. As the funds become available for use, they're transferred to an account made available for drawdown by the county. Mr. Walton, we do need to take action to get the board chair's signature on this application.
Are there any questions, Ms. Haynes? Seeing none, I would like to say that we like to make the motion, we approve the lottery fund application. FBT 08.
Second.
Pam Perezza,
Yes.
Rodney Walton,
Yes.
Daniel Spence,
Yes.
Dr. Sheila Williams,
Yes.
George Archuleta,
Yes.
Virginia Houston.
Yes.
Thank you. Motion carries.
And next, Ms. Hayes will talk to us about the T21 quote.
The next item on the agenda, FBT 09, is the quote for TE 21, which is the benchmark assessment tool used by the district. Dr. Spencer is actually available to answer any questions you may have about the actual service.
Does anyone have any questions about that?
And did everybody get a chance to look at it? So there's none, this will also need to be taken action as well. So I'd like to make the motion that we approve the TE 21 quote.
A
I think we
second.
need a second for that.
A second.
Ian Pereza,
Yes.
Rodney Walton.
Yes.
Daniel Spence,
Yes.
Dr. Sheila Williams,
Yes.
George Archuleta,
Yes.
Jenny Houston.
Yes.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
And I think that's it, Ms. Haynes. Thank you
Thank you.
for presenting tonight.
Thank you, Vice Chair Walton. Okay, now we're going to move on to the Personalized Education Committee. Pam Pereza is the chair.
Yes. We have a virtual learning update from Dr. Amy Spencer.
Good evening, Board Chair Ward and Vice Chair and Committee Chair Pereza, Interim Superintendent Dr. Ingram, board members and colleagues and guests. I come before you this evening to share with you updates on the virtual learning option that the board approved last week. So on Tuesday, after the board meeting, a Google form was shared with families to request the virtual option with supporting medical documentation. As of this afternoon, we have received 184 requests with 59 approved for the virtual option. Of the 184, we had a total of 78 students that requested it at the elementary, 52 students at the middle school, and 54 students at the high school. With the numbers approved, 26 at the elementary, 12 at the middle, and 21 at the high school. Letters went home to those parents that were approved. Their child was approved on Saturday, explaining the virtual option, letting them know the board criteria, giving them the details, if you will, about the instructional materials and the release of the devices and those things. Principals were to get up with the parents, and then that was to happen this week. Additionally, we have secured teacher of record for the secondary at the middle school and the high school to support the learning. And as Dr. Ingram mentioned, we are looking for teachers for a K-1 class, a 2-3 class, and a 4-5 class. Lessons went home to those students today, and so they have activities for this week, K-5. They will have activities next week, and then after the Labor Day holiday, we hope to have teachers secured, Canvas uploaded and ready to go, and the students participating in virtual meetings and the like. Are there any questions?
I do.
Yes, sir.
Today was the first day of school.
Mhm.
Were they parents starting yet or not yet?
So what we wanted to do was ensure that the students and the parents had some correspondence from us, right? So it was approved on Monday. They had the opportunity to apply on Tuesday. And so by Friday, we had already secured the secondary. They have reached out to the parents, so they should have information. Additionally, the principals were to send information to them as to when they would pick up their instructional materials and the devices. And if they were in person, that would be happening this week as well. So much like the traditional, the virtual would have the same.
Well, we also discussed about the teachers just doing the virtual. Is that
Yes, sir.
what they're looking at?
Yes, sir. So we have secured 4 teachers right now that have agreed to support the virtual after hours or during their planning. They are being paid to do that. What we didn't want to do is have simultaneous instruction, and so that will not occur. Yes, sir.
And were all the parents notified, both the ones who were able to get into the program and or who were not.
Correct. So the principals reached out to those parents who were not approved. And the reason why many of them were not is they did not have supporting medical documentation. And so in the event that they had provided medical documentation, but it wasn't, how would I say? For instance, if we were to get a copy of a doctor visit, but it didn't really have any information on that, the principal reached out to those parents and said they needed a little bit more information. And so the principals took care of that process and then also sent us then those that had been approved, and then we sent that letter out to them. Yes, ma'am.
Now, you indicated middle and high school have teachers in place.
Yes, ma'am.
What is the plan for the elementary school?
So we are going to post for those positions. It's just 3 when you look at the numbers. And so they're multi-age classrooms, but they are very small. And so that whole group instruction and would really literally be more personalized and more small group. But additionally, we have a team of people that are certified teachers at the elementary level that have created lessons for this week and then next week. So the students will be engaged in those activities. And oftentimes the first 2 weeks of school at an elementary, the students are learning the rules and procedures, where the bathrooms are. And so if you're thinking about kindergarten students, they're learning, how to line up in the hallway, where the lunchroom is and things like that. And so for our elementary students that are virtual, we already have them engaged in some of those learning activities. Mm-hmm.
Are there any other questions for Dr. Spencer?
Dr. Seuss, I had a question. So for those students who were initially denied based on not having sufficient reasoning, will they still have a chance to bring in additional documentation and be considered, or
Yes.
they will?
And so as of today, when I came here, these are the numbers. And so that could potentially change. I know there were some families that said that they were going to go to the doctor or they had doctor's appointments for that. And so you all said that appropriate medical documentation needed to be in place. And so, yes, that would definitely be okay.
Is that extended to a certain time frame? Like, as a cutoff date for you will be an in-person student, or you would be still able to get your virtual?
So we did not have a cutoff date. When you all approved it, there was no cutoff date because circumstances for families can change. And so when we looked at the determination, it was a case-by-case criteria. And so, I have children and grandchildren, and potentially one of them could go to the doctor and be diagnosed with something. And so I would like to think that we would not say, no, I'm sorry, you cannot. So with appropriate, supporting medical documentation, then we would make those allowances. Yes.
Thank you.
So Dr. Spencer, are you saying that it will remain open? So you
At this-
have a rolling?
At this time, yes. At this time, that's what we have. Yes, ma'am.
And you'll just monitor numbers because then that will change based on teacher load? Is that
Right.
what you're doing?
Mhm.
Okay.
So we wouldn't want to put a teacher, if you will, with 100 students if they were doing this like during their planning time at the secondary level. So that might indicate that we would need to hire an additional teacher for that.
Okay.
So we would monitor that, yes.
So this is remaining open in case, a student, anything could happen and you're prepared for that.
Correct.
We just move into the online setting.
Correct. And I'm thinking too, if we think about it, that most of the families that have been provided this opportunity, most of them, if they wanted this option, probably would have asked for this option now. And then there's those case by case that could happen as the year progresses.
Are there any other questions for Dr. Spencer? Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Spencer. Okay, now we're going to move on to the Global Citizens and Healthy Students Committee. Mr. Archuleta.
Yes, we're gonna have a transportation update, and I believe Miss Amanda Hill is here to give that. Floor is yours.
Good evening, Chair Warden, Vice Chair Pereza, Superintendent Ingram, board colleagues. and our visitors. I come to you tonight with an update on where we stand with drivers at this current time and what we're looking like. We have 41 drivers currently. I have 123 runs that ran today. I had to make 10 more runs because of overcrowding, and that could increase in the next couple of days as we continue to add students as fast as we possibly can. I have, like I say, 10 open runs, 2 of which are open for tomorrow morning. We were trying to secure a driver to at least cover 1. If not, we will do double backs tomorrow morning to get those covered. We did have some overcrowding this morning and then even more drastic this afternoon. So I will be working on reconfiguring those buses tomorrow so that they do not have any overcrowding issues, because we cannot have that. On Friday and Saturday, I lost 2 drivers. And as of this morning, 3 of them have pulled out from driving mornings. And then this morning, I had a driver who is new actually and did not show up. So this morning was quite hectic with everything. And then of course, this afternoon was quite hectic as well. And again, we're adding students as fast as we possibly can, with that slight concern for overcrowding and the lack of drivers to pick up what I'm going to have to build and routes to cover those overcrowding. Any questions?
I do. So I know, I guess myself and probably several other board members have gotten quite a few phone calls today, just probably like you have. And I'm wondering, because I know we have been asking about routes and bus drivers for the past, I don't know, 3 or 4 months. And I'm just curious of how did it get to this place? Maybe it's the wrong place. How did it get to this place that we were so far, I guess, behind? Or like, for example, I'm a parent. My daughter didn't even get on the list. Her address wasn't on the list. And we turned our paperwork in immediately. How did she miss the list? How do so many others miss the list? One call I got today, it's just disturbing to me. They were dropped off to Girls Inc. Mm-hmm. And nobody received them. A contractor outside had to catch the kids and take them inside the Girls Inc.
Oh, if you know that
That's
bus.
very disturbing. Yeah,
Yeah, because they're not, it's supposed to be a hand-to-hand contact on that.
absolutely.
And I will definitely address that.
Yeah, and it's just so many. I'm just like, what are we going to, how can we reassure our parents that things are going to get better?
We need
We've
drivers
been saying that for,
desperately, yeah.
but even with drivers, we have some administrative stuff that hasn't been done. So I'm just curious of what we're going to do.
We are working as fast as possible, trying to get everybody on there, assigned, ready to go.
Yet, I was doing double runs, correct, or not?
Most of them are doing double runs. Some will only do an AM, some will only do a PM, some only drive elementary, some will only drive middle school. So it's a puzzle piece to try and put together to get drivers to cover what we do have as far as children goes.
I'd like to issue a plea if this is appropriate at this time, because I think it's a bigger issue for the community that we don't have bus drivers. And granted, this bus driver shortage is everywhere, so it's not exclusive to Pasco County. Mm-hmm. But I would think that within our community, if there are potentially retirees that have, early retired and have time, but it's hard to get good help under these circumstances today. And that's what we're asking for. So we're asking for help. And I do understand that it's a compensation factor that some look at when it comes to driving a bus, but it's getting our students, which is our community's prized possessions, to and from school. So I would issue a plea, like Dr. Ingram said earlier, to the community that this is not just an issue for the board or for central office or for Ms. Hill. It's an issue for our community when someone doesn't get on the list, or somebody gets dropped off at the wrong location, or somebody gets to school an hour late. So how do we fix that? That's a good question. How do we fix it? But it can't just be in this room or in Ms. Hill's office. It's a community issue, and whether you have kids or you don't, I completely understand that. But I want to think that I could appeal to the greater members of the community at large who have sent someone to school before, the importance of getting kids to school, to and from. So if there's anybody out there who's got the time, again, it wouldn't be the pay as much as it would be the, like, I guess, the reward of getting these kids there and back. And I'm sure Ms. Hill will be willing to work with anybody to make sure that that process, I'm not sure how long that process takes, but I'm sure she will facilitate you to get, I guess, approved as quickly as possible so we can kind of solve some of these issues. Because today was the first day of school and there was bumps in the road. So we kind of expected that. With that to be expected, how do we smooth it out? We're going to need your help. So anyone out there listening, anybody that has people that they know, if you can reach out, I'm not authorizing to Ms. Hill, but point to Ms. Hill's direction and just like, hopefully we can get this problem resolved. Thank you.
I do have CDL classes that are scheduled. Typically, they're once a month. We share Mr. Watts with several other counties, and we all join together and get as many as will allow right now with the guidelines of can be in a classroom, and we share that with the other counties with him. And he comes out and we'll do one in Camden, we'll do one in Edenton, Chewan. We all share and try to get these drivers in. You would go through the training class. And then, you would go get your permit. After that, you would do 3 days on the road with Mr. Watts and then go get your driver's license, your CDL. In the meantime, apply. We'll go through that process, get it processed, and get you in here. We desperately need you. I do make that plea myself. Please call my office, get it put on the list for the next bus class, and we appreciate that. Any other questions?
As the director, what do you think is the problem? I mean, you said you lost 2 drivers today.
Mhm.
Why? I mean, did they go to other positions or?
The one gave no explanation. Another, it's higher pay somewhere else. That seems to be kind of the problem that we're running into is pay. And it's not just for other county schools, it's for other jobs, such as driving dump truck. I've lost a lot of drivers over the course of the last year from the time we shut down until now, just for that.
We discussed a pay increase, didn't we?
Yes, we did.
Did we offer that? Did we put that in place or no?
Ms. Haynes, were you not going to address that tonight? She's going to address that tonight in closed session. So we're working on it, Ms. Hill. You gotta, do your part to do
Yep.
everything you can to keep what you have.
Absolutely.
Treat them good.
Oh, yeah. I love them. And I want to give a shout out to all my drivers. You did a wonderful job today, as stressful as it was. But if you are listening tonight, I appreciate you more than anything in this world. So you did a great job with all the stress. Thank you.
I second that.
Thank you.
Is there any other discussion on this here?
No,
I personally want to thank you. I know you tried. I know you have. And it does pay. I heard from somebody else at just about 4 o'clock before I got here. Another district that I know is paying their drivers more. They were short, 20 drivers. So I know you're doing the best thing. I know what you're battling through, and I don't ever want you to feel you're not appreciated because you are.
Thank you.
And just like Mr. Walton said, we are here to work together, and we're behind you.
Thank you.
Yes.
You have a good evening.
Did you have something?
So,
Next, that's it.
okay. All right. If there are no other discussion items for this open session, we are going to move into closed session. And I'm going to ask Dr. Williams to take us into that with a motion. Then I'll need a second, and then we'll vote on that.
The board will go into closed session for the purpose of considering personnel actions that involve employees of this board as allowed by NC Statute 1.3 through 318 11A6.
Okay. And a second?
Second.
All right, and a roll call vote, Ms. Sawyer.
Pam Perezza,
Yes.
Ronnie Walton,
Yes.
Daniel Spence,
Yes.
Dr. Sheila Williams,
Yes.
George Bartoletto.
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, so at this time, we will go into closed session. If you want to take a break for about 5 minutes, you may do so while we get everyone cleared out, get the door.